We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football Rebel Outpost channel with a donation $. Make a comment and we'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Everybody, welcome on in. And I mean everybody, including those who are raking me over the coals all through a multiple of platforms right now. On X, on message boards, holy smokes. I'm even going to welcome you in today, especially you in today. This is going to be a simple show. Wednesdays are my most difficult days to get off a live show. So, we're going to do, this is pared down. This is not going to be a long monologue. We're going to open up the phone lines. Well, I can't promise it's not going to be a long monologue. But what I can promise you is we're only going to be talking about one subject. And that is what is driving the bus in the next realignment. Let me be perfectly clear, because after this show, I'm going to get raked over the coals again. But I would advise you, go ahead. Go ahead. You know how this show is. Everybody can disagree with me. But I would be careful. I would be very, very careful. Go ahead. Say what you want to say. But I'm just giving you a little piece of advice. Be very careful. There is no chalk. We had to rip down the odds in the sports book. It was almost 1 week ago today. Every single day I see on X people saying a whole lot of stuff. Greg is now putting out garbage. Greg doesn't understand. Greg is putting out garbage. Okay. All right. Okay. Just remember, I will remember. Now, here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, we are one of the very few shows that will publicly take the L when it's warranted. In fact, we go above and beyond. We do the little bit of detail that we got wrong. I will come back and say I'm taking the L. So we will take the L. But I think it's going to become real clear to everybody. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to become real clear to everybody. As we look back in the spring of 2024, when we look backwards, no matter how it ends up, when we look backwards in the spring, because we still got 2 more days of spring left. When we look back at the spring of 2024, I believe it's going to be quite evident to everybody. Everybody who's willing to tell themselves the truth, that in the spring of 2024, there was no chalk. We at Peek Around the Corner, we've already made our error. We've already made our mistake. We got word on May 23rd. We got word that Florida State and Clemson were having more third-party discussions. The SEC was not going to have, we knew about this anyway, but they weren't going to have there as their first or second option. It wasn't going to be the SEC's top focus. And that's been reported on for a long time. Some people still don't believe it. That's fine. So we made the decision to put it up on our sports book that Florida State and Clemson were the chalk to go to the Big Ten, and Virginia and North Carolina were the chalk to go to the SEC. We tore that down on May 23rd. On May 28th, we talked about it. May 29th, we talked about it. I've been talking about it. I was on the Big 12 Mafia show last night. I talked about it. I'm going to talk about it again today. There is no chalk. It is wide open. Wide open. This is a very complicated, the holy smokes drama. We said at the beginning this was going to be drawn out. It's going to be, you're going to have your ups and downs, your roller coaster. I want to show you, first of all, I want to thank everybody who's come out. This is going to be a simple show. I'm just going to go through one article. And that article is not even directly tied to realignment, but it kind of is. It really is. And then we're going to open up the phone lines. But look, first of all, let me thank everybody who's come on in. And then I want to say one more thing. To those who believe that I am putting out garbage, I want to explain something to you. And then we're going to go to the article. Ryan Brooks, thank you so much for coming on in. Thomas, Derek Marie, Florida Man, Matt Higgins, Ryan Martin, Peter Shields, Eddie Williams, Andrew Krill, John Menser, Stephen McNeely, David's in the house, Ted Evans is in the house, Stephen Clark, Congo, John Till, James Foster, Caleb Ramirez, Congo, Raider Vision, Jeff Morgan, Keep a Choppin', Vox, Quindaro, Foodie Memphis, David Kreitzer, Tracy FSU, a little PAT, a little CWS, Joe Z, Salt of the Earth, Amazing Blue, John Grove, Randy Taylor, David M, Coy, Richard Brookins, Holy Smokes RT, Cameron B, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, Guy Gusman's in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Xmas Tox, I apologize for getting that name wrong. Richard L, the Georgia Bulldog, Don Scruggs, Big Ears Bo, Richard Brookins, Benjamin Griffin, Movie Time Blues, Jane Ha, Clay, Connecticut Fan, Sean Jago Blue, The Architect. Okay. You don't put out garbage, Craig, but your Big 12 predictions was pretty close. Duly noted. And you're probably correct. What was I going to say? Jesus, slipped out of my mind. What was I going to say before I went to the article? I cannot remember now. Okay, let's just get to the article. I'm sure it's going to pop in my brain. Thank you all for coming on in. I do appreciate... Oh, I remember. His take on Ness was off, but I know he would take the L later. Take the L for saying Kansas host Illinois. You got it, Tom Clyde. I will take the L on that. Okay. This show is not for everybody. It's a national college football show. I do my predictions. We have fun with it. I did my Big 12 predictions. I did my ACC. I give you information. We peek around the corner. And our track record speaks for itself. It does not mean we're not infallible, but what I'm telling you is what I can tell you at the time, and it is definitely not garbage. If you need to watch a college football YouTube channel that agrees with what you believe, it needs to say what you believe. There's a whole lot of other college football channels out there that you can watch. If you need your college football YouTube channel to root for a certain team, to root for a certain conference, there's plenty out there. And there's a lot of great ones out there. They're basically every college football YouTube channel out there, their host is a whole lot smarter than the one that sits in front of this microphone. But I'm also able to give you the cloak and dagger. Gave you the cloak and dagger in USC. Gave you the cloak and dagger in Colorado. Gave you the cloak and dagger on Oregon and Washington. I'm giving you the cloak and dagger right now. There is no chalk to anything in this next realignment. I can't tell you, I can't go into everything, but I've given you a lot. And we're going to press the envelope just a little bit more today. But there is too much unknown. From the Big Ten and the SEC perspective, there is too much they want to learn this year. They want to learn how their schedule works. They want to learn if having no division, if it actually is going to work. Are they going to run into danger of an unbalanced schedule to have 5 teams tied for first place? They don't know how the ratings are going to work. They're very optimistic. The Big Ten is getting a little bit more pro streaming. So if they expand, it might be a new partner that comes into the fold, like an Amazon. Of course, Amazon's going to have a big word in what they're going to want to put. There is too much unknown. The college football playoffs, the settlement, the salary cap. There is just North Carolina, the state of North Carolina quagmire, the state of Virginia quagmire. And of course, the biggest unknown of it all. When does Florida State, when does Clemson know how and how much it's going to take to get their grant of rights back? There is so many unknowns that you cannot, this is not a template for what has happened in the past with other stories of realignment. It's not even close to being the same thing. And then there's relationships. There's new presidents coming in and out. Let me show you an article from Mr. John Wilner of the Mercury News. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, thank you so much for your super chat, Tom Clyde. I do appreciate it. Yes. Richard Brookins. So Greg, what you are saying is no one knows anything and anything can happen for any reason. I think that's pretty accurate. There is too much unknown. People can speculate all they want. I'm going to speculate. I think Florida State going to the Big Ten, yes, it leans that way. North Carolina leaning to the SEC, yeah, it leans that way. But I've got a whole bunch of people coming at me and saying Florida State knows exactly what's going to happen. Clemson knows exactly what's going to happen. Or they would not be in the courthouse. Miami knows they're going to the Big 12. Miami knows I've got a whole bunch of people saying a whole lot of things to me, and I'm going to lay it out. Nobody knows. This is not the same. We knew. We were given so much information on the Pac-12's difficulty just to get a media deal. We knew that We knew that Colorado was talking third-party talks. Then the hot bubble of action happened on May 7th and Sunday in Chicago. That was the hot bubble of action. We knew all these things. These things, that is different than the world that we are in now. In the world we're in now is there's third-party talks, but Florida State doesn't know where they're going. They feel good about their valuation. They don't know where they're going, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't care. And if that upsets you enough to where you can't watch the show, then the show is not for you. I am not ripping on Florida State. I'm not ripping on Clemson. I'm not ripping on anybody. I'm the one that's telling you the truth. They don't know where they're going. They want to find out. They want to find out. They don't want to wait to 2032, 2033, 2034. They don't know where they're going. And if you disagree, that's fine. But I'm answering the calls that Greg is putting out garbage. No, we're not. We're actually telling you the truth. Clemson does not know where they're going to end up. Clemson is telling you the truth when they say they have not been able to have meaningful conversations. The other commissioners have told Phillips, we're not having talks with your schools. We're not having talks with your schools on conference affiliation. That is the truth. I got to tell the truth, guys. If I'm not telling the truth, as I know it, as I've been told by people in the business, then we might as well shut down this channel right now. So if you need, in your heart of heart, to hear what you need to hear, good news. This ain't the channel for you. It ain't. It ain't. Last year, in my predictions, Las Vegas had the Gophers at 7.5 wins. And I said, in my true prediction, I've got the Gophers winning 5 games. And what happened? They won 5 games. I happen to be correct. I could have been wrong. But I said something about the Gophers, and I had a whole bunch of Gopher fans, a whole message board going after me because I dared to pick the Gophers would take a couple steps back last year. Guys, I say it how I think is something's going to happen, and I say it how I believe something's going to happen. And when it comes to something like realignment, I'm telling you the chatter behind the curtain. You can take it however you want it. But I'm not here to pump sunshine into anybody. I'm not here to rip on anybody. I'm telling you what the chatter is. That's what I do. So sometimes it isn't going to feel good when I say something. And you can disagree. You can say, Greg, you're wrong. I've never had a problem with that. I don't have a problem with it now. But I can tell you what, we're not putting out garbage. That I can tell you. I'll get you super chats first, and then we're going to get to the article. And I need to explain it maybe a little bit better than I've been explaining it. What is driving the next realignment bus along with college football? There is a partner. There is a co-driver. There's a couple other hands on the steering wheel. And when we look back at the spring of 2024, that is also going to become apparent as well. Rock Chalk Greg, thank you, Tom Clyde. Expedition Greg, did you uncover Josh Pate tweet? No, I don't know what he was talking about. Don't know what he was talking about. Thank you, Expedition Greg. Thank you for the super chat. Do appreciate it. Ryan Martin, the only thing Florida State Clemson knew when they went into court was they couldn't stay with the status quo anymore. To stay with the ACC was death. Absolutely correct. Ryan Martin, thank you for your super chat. And I believe in my heart of heart, and I've said this over and over again, I don't believe Florida State and Clemson are going to be in the ACC for the next 3 years. They're going to be out. I'm telling you, I truthfully do not believe what I have been told, that there is a chalk, there is a favorite. Nothing's been done. There's been no offers. We know that. Although most people disagree with me on that, but I know there has been no offers. And I don't believe we can put down a chalk. There is too much unknown. Let me get to the article. And I need to explain something a little bit more here. And the Big 12 plays a part in this as well, by the way. Laura Weiss, what would happen if the Big 12 tried to use private equity money to get Florida State and Clemson or any school from the ACC? That could be playing a part in this as well, or it could be in the future. Private equity could be playing a part. Could be. It's just another unknown. There is a lot going on. Let me get to this article, and then I think things will clear up a little bit more. Again, this is not exactly about realignment. It isn't about realignment, but it is about realignment. I'll explain at the end. John Wilner's article. Why the Big 12 should consider private equity. Winning football can counteract the enrollment apocalypse. Enrollment apocalypse. That is your co-driver who is behind the wheel driving the next realignment bus. It's not just football. Now, for the Big 12, it's football. Most of it is football, as John Wilner explains. But it is the enrollment apocalypse. This is what the presidents are thinking about, worrying about, strategizing about. Commissioner Brett Yormark reportedly is negotiating a $1 billion private equity deal. The Big 12 provided a double dose of news last week with revelations the conference could sell its naming rights to a corporate sponsor and an ownership stake to a private equity firm. The twin developments come no surprise, with his schools facing a massive revenue disparity relative to their peers in the SEC and the Big Ten. Commissioner Brett Yormark has been candid about pursuing every last dollar, even in his quest leads down in unconventional paths. Although no conference has sold its naming rights, the prospect of what published reported have termed the All-State 12 Conference is undeniably jarring. Title sponsors are hardly foreign with an industry that spawned the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and the Maui Jim Maui Invitational. But the private equity route is unprecedented and potentially fraught. The SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey said recently, "In my experience, those involved in private equity want to be paid back. Selling ownership in the Big 12 is risky, especially for the percentage under consideration," according to CBS Sports. Yormark and the university presidents are mulling the sale of as much as 20% of the conference for $1 billion. dollar. But you know what's also risky? Not selling ownership. What's also risky is doing nothing at all. The Big 12 cannot afford to get lapped by the SEC and the Big 10. It cannot risk a not-so-slow fade in irrelevance fueled by tight budgets, limited resources, and second-rate talent. Football's success is far too important. Not because the presidents crave athletic glory, but because they crave what athletic glory can provide. Unsurpassed marketing for the university writ large. The enrollment apocalypse is coming, folks. The enrollment apocalypse is coming, folks. And on-field success might be the most effective antidote for the Big 12. For the Big 12, on-field success might be the most effective antidote for the Big 12. We're going to talk about the Big 10. We're going to talk about the SEC after the article. And we're also going to talk about the Big 12. But hang with me here. The enrollment apocalypse is coming, folks. And on-field success might be the most effective antidote. This is macro higher education stuff driving some of these decisions. An industry source told the hotline it's pretty understandable through that lens. This is what we reported to you in late May, first week of June, second week in June. This macro higher education stuff is driving some of these decisions. Peek around the corner, we're talking about it because this is driving the bus now. Football is still there, of course, especially for the Big 12. But maybe not so much for the SEC. You get what I'm saying? The macro picture for higher education is daunting. John Wilner is reporting to you what we heard about 3-4 weeks ago, and it's getting beaten over my head constantly. One of the many reasons why we have to report to you today on June 19th, there is no chalk. The macro picture for higher education is daunting. With the pool of college applicants expected to shrink started in 2025 due to a decline in birth rates nationally. The source of that decline was the Great Recession. According to CDC's National Center for Health Statistics, fertility rates fell rapidly between 2007 and 2009, more than any 2-year period in the last 30 years. Add 18 years to the front edge of that decline, and you get a freshman class of 2025, 2026. As a result, the consensus view is that America will hit the peak around 3.5 million high school graduates sometime near 2025. That's next year. And then the drop-off happens. And this is why things are getting reported as they're being reported by Pete Thamel, by Dennis Dodd, by Nicole Auerbach, I'm thinking, Brett McMurphy, peek around the corner. After that, the college going population is expected to shrink across the next 5 to 10 years by as many as 15% percentage points. Connecting the dots from the Great Recession to the Big 12 private equity play isn't difficult. It's simple. Supply and demand. Colleges will compete for a shrinking pool of applicants, especially out-of-state students who pay full cost tuition. You know, I'm going to try to be nice here. There are still ding-dongs out there. I'm going to use the phrase ding-dongs because that's the phrase my father would have used. There's still ding-dongs out there that they think the Big 12 made a mistake in expanding with 4 teams to go from 8 to 12 teams. And then there's still people who believe they did another mistake. Really unbelievable. These universities, they want to go where the students are. The conferences can help by expanding where the students are. Colleges will compete for a shrinking pool of applicants, especially out-of-state students who pay full cost of tuition. This is what your university presidents are thinking about. Every metric used in the admissions game will become more important. Membership and Association of American Universities, AAU, placement in the U.S. News and World Report rankings, and of course, the acceptance rates that drive reputation and prestige. Visibility will be essential in the quest for applicants in the lowering of acceptances. No branch of the university is more visible than football. Nothing else attracts 50,000 people to campus. Nothing else draws millions of television viewers. And no branch of the university offers a better return on investment. If a university gives $20 million to subsidize athletics, people are aghast, another source said. But what if you don't give that $20 million to athletics and instead you put it directly to university marketing to generate the same experience, the same affinity, the same excitement to get a 17-year-old to apply? That $20 million doesn't go very far in marketing. But it does in football. It does in basketball. The Hotline View. Again, John Wilner, the Mercury News. The Big 12 presidents are fretting over an enrollment cliff approaching at light speed. I'm going to add something. It's not just the Big 12 presidents. It's the ACC presidents. It's the Big 10 presidents. It's even the SEC presidents who want that out-of-state tuition. The Big 12 presidents view football as the most cost-efficient way to attract out-of-state students. The Big 12 presidents, informed by Yormark and their athletic directors, see the competitive landscape tilting decisively to the Big 10 and the SEC. Once the next edition of college football playoff begins in the fall of 2026, each athletic department in the Big 10 and SEC will receive at least $30 million more in conference distributions annually than those in the Big 12 and the ACC. Meanwhile, expenses are set to soar. The implementation of a revenue-sharing model will cost the Power 4 athletic department approximately $20 million annually. Increases scholarship could add $10 million to the budget. With the resource gap morphing into a gulf, the Big 12 and the ACC football programs are in jeopardy of becoming marginalized, of becoming to the Big 10 and SEC what the Group of 5 schools are to them. And finally, in the article, the infusion of cash from private equity would offer a chance to remain competitive on the field and as a result in the admissions game. Should the presidents sell a stake in the conference? That probably depends on the terms. Should they give the matter serious consideration? Because of a daunting macro environment, 2 decades in the making, they don't have a choice. A brilliant article by John Wilner. He's talking about the Big 12. It's risky to do the private equity. It's risky not to do it. Now, I'm going to take the liberty of taking that article and morphing it into my own article. It's also about the next wave of expansion. Football, of course, by far is the most important athletic endeavor to give value to an athletic department, to give value to a conference, to give value to their media partners. Football, football, football. They are behind the wheel of the realignment bus, but sitting right next to them with their hands on the wheel is the enrollment apocalypse. That is what is driving the SEC. And that is what it's been driving the Big Ten. Now, the Big Ten, we've talked about this. Again, this is going to be a simple Wednesday evening show. We're going to open up the phone lines real soon. And you can let me have it, tell me what you're thinking, or you can talk about anything college football that you want. You want to nail me for my ACC predictions? Go ahead. You want to nail me for my Big 12 predictions? Go right at it. You're going to nail me for my Big 10 predictions that I'm going to make next Monday, and you know they're going to be wrong? Go ahead. And the SEC the following week. But the Big Ten, when they expanded for School 13 and School 14, those were going to be Virginia and North Carolina. Jim Delaney, that's who they targeted. Jim Delaney wanted the Big Ten to become a 2-region conference, no longer a 1-region conference in Penn State. Yeah, Delaney was getting a little bit nervous about Penn State. Yes, the cable boxes in the state of New Jersey and Maryland. Yes. But Jim Delaney, go Google it. Go Google it. Jim Delaney talked about demographics. Go where the students are, where they're going to be in the future. The Midwest universities have been able to attract, the universities in the Big Ten have been able to attract more East Coast students in the last 7 years. Now, there was a bunch of alumnus, Big Ten alumnus, parents of students living on the East Coast, working in the government Washington, D.C., being in New Jersey, and their kids or children are starting to go to Big Ten universities. Northwestern has a lot of outstate applications and students from the East Coast, from New Jersey. The Big Ten did not get what they wanted, but they got what they needed. They went into a second region. It was not about football. No disrespect to Maryland, no disrespect to Rutgers. But it wasn't about football. It was about demographics. It is believed by those who report on the sport because they're being told by those that hold SEC interest that the SEC's is looking, their presidents are looking to expand new footprint when it comes to demographics. That's not a shot at Clemson. It's not a shot at Florida State. Tallahassee is growing. Clemson, that part of South, they're growing. But to go into a new state for that to become SEC country and to have North Carolina, the 9th largest state in the country, which is going to be the 7th largest state in the country to become in 2030, 2031. Those are the projections. For North Carolina to become SEC country, that is what the SEC is targeting. Their presidents are targeting that. It does not mean that Florida State is not going to become a member of the SEC. It doesn't mean that Clemson is not going to become a member of the SEC. We have never closed the doors on that. Too much unknown. More now than ever, by the way. It just means that North Carolina is the main target, and what is affiliated with North Carolina, highly probably Virginia, that is the target for the SEC first. Now, what I've been getting raked over the coals on is, I don't believe there's a chalk. I don't believe there's a favorite. Nothing is definitely done. There is too much unknown. Recently, Peek Around the Corner has received information last week, this week. Look, when you have, if Florida State and Clemson, or if it's a third school that jumps in and files suit in the courts, if Florida State and Clemson are able to reach this settlement a year from now, 3 months from now, 1 day from now, whenever that happens, that's good news for Florida State and Clemson. Them becoming available is good news for them. Being the first ones out of the gate is good news from them. But what we've been told, that doesn't make anything chalk. At the Big Ten and the SEC, we'll have meetings with them. Florida State and Clemson will press their advantage. All that is going to happen. But the Big Ten presidents, Notre Dame is in their media contract. Notre Dame, they know, will lift all the boats in the Big Ten Conference. It's written in the media contract. NBC, CBS, and Fox have already agreed on a price point that would elevate Notre Dame and everybody else in the conference, including the additions of Oregon and Washington. Of course, Notre Dame will get another look. When Notre Dame sees that Florida State and Clemson have a number, a settlement, a pathway, the Big Ten's going to wait to see what Notre Dame, if they are open for discussions, to go into the deep weeds. The Big Ten is also going to take another swing at North Carolina. They're not going to be making any commitments to anybody until they know where North Carolina politically, whatever happens in North Carolina. Again, I believe, so does most people believe, that North Carolina is leaning to the SEC. I have not shut the door down on the Florida State or Clemson going to the Big Ten. Of course not. Of course not. But I cannot look in the camera and tell you guys honestly that that's the chalk. It's not. Been told this. Been told this, and it's very, very clear. It's all up It's all up in the air. All of it. The Big 12, Brett Yormark, who knows? That private equity, they might be using it for enlarging the conference. They might not be using it exactly what John Wilner thinks they're going to be using it for. There is just too much unknown. So Greg doesn't know. We can't even put the odds up because of what we've been told. There is political stuff going on. Not only in the state of Virginia, not only in the state of North Carolina, there's political stuff going on between the universities. There's a certain perception of what Notre Dame would want. There's a certain perception of what North Carolina would want. And so that is it. That is the monologue for today. Again, I do not expect hardly anybody to like what I'm saying because we all want certainty. I know Florida State Seminole fans, they know the great brand of Florida State, the emerging university. I'm not ripping on Florida State. I'm not ripping on Florida State. I'm not ripping on Clemson. Incredible brands. I'm not ripping on Virginia. I'm not ripping on nobody. I'm not. But I got to tell you the truth. I can't do this show. A lot of Washington State, Oregon State fans got real mad at me when I kept talking about the Pac-12 breaking up. A lot of people got upset with me when I said USC called the Big Ten. We knew it was true. I got raked over the coals for 3 months. So these 7 days of being raked over the coals compares to nothing of those 3 months. We got people declaring that absolutely without a doubt, Florida State is going here, there, Clemson's going here, there. They are welcome to that opinion. But I'm telling you the truth. They do not know. They don't know. They don't know because the Big Ten and the SEC don't know. They would rather have this season play out. They might not get that opportunity. There might be a settlement here. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be following this story. And again, if something new happens, if we get new information, we're going to report it to you as soon as possible. And for those who said, Greg, you flip-flopped, you know what my answer to that is? You're absolutely correct. Flip-flop city, and I'm the mayor. Why did I flip-flop? Because we go where the story goes. We had to rip down those odds. If we did not rip down those odds, then I wasn't telling you the truth anymore on what we are hearing at Peek Around the Corner. And that is more important than anything. If I've got 0 viewers, if nobody's watching, and if I'm telling you the truth, that's all that matters. So we're going to get to your phone calls. We are going to get to your phone calls. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. 763-260-1333. The John Wilner article is a great article. And it doesn't just have to do with the Big 12. Board of Governors won't let North Carolina leave the ACC, so how can any conference target them?
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. Can you wait 1 second, please?
Sure.
I apologize. I shouldn't have said the floor is yours and then ask you to wait. That's very bad of me. I apologize. I just got to answer this question. You're
Sure.
right. Officially, Florida man, nobody can target the North Carolina until they get themselves available. But North Carolina will be the school that the SEC will target first, and they're going to wait when they become available. This is what we believe. This is what we're being told. Look, Pete Thamel said it over a year ago. Other people have reported the same thing. It's not by accident. They're just not throwing stuff in the air. North Carolina, Virginia will be the number one targets for the SEC. And the Big Ten's going to take a look that way as well. So, and along with Notre Dame. And of course, not a shot against Florida State. Great brand. Emerging university. I think they're going to go into the Power 2. I just can't tell you where they're going. I don't even have the odds up because there's too much unknown. But it's not a done deal. Nothing is written. Tony Petitti has not told Florida State they have an offer. And all this other garbage that is out there. I'm the one that's telling you the truth. Go ahead, Ryan. The floor is yours.
Okay, I just want to repeat something very important. I think it's very important that we have a calm the bleep down moment here. To support what you're saying, Greg, there isn't going to be any kind of formal offer or any offer extended until those schools have done their due diligence, until those conferences have done their due diligence, formally requested documents, actually engaged attorneys to do that. And right now, given what the ACC is going in and the timing on the grant of rights, I don't think the Big Ten legal counsel is going to go and do any of that until there's a clarity of when that grant of rights expires. The Pac-10 was different because everybody knew it was ending. And, there was no contract to be interfered with because the current one was going to end, and no one assumed that any of those Pac-12 schools would break their existing contract. So I think in this circumstance, we have to stop and think, if anything, you don't offer anything, even verbally, unless you've done your due diligence. And you can't do your due diligence by third-party back-way channels. That's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
And the networks are involved because they come in and they hire valuation firms, and all that stuff comes out in discovery. They're not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
I want to just point out another thing. It makes sense waiting on Notre Dame and North Carolina. I mean, that's just their preference if they can get there. And to be honest, Greg, we're 6 months into the litigation of FSU and the ACC, and we haven't even determined jurisdiction.
Yeah, it took us 3 days of pleadings, 3 days in Leon County just to get a ruling on that. Go ahead. Not even a ruling on where it's going to be, but ruling in regards to denying the motion to dismiss in Leon County. Go ahead. Apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, and we may not even get to trial on this until next year, and it might be a moot, pun intended, point, because what if, ESPN has the ultimate decision of what goes and what happens here. If ESPN doesn't exercise that option in February of 2025, then guess what? That's basically the 25 and 26 seasons left of the ACC, and we're in the same situation the Pac-12 was when USC and UCLA announced they were leaving. So, I mean, we go a normal time, we go to a normal expansion timeline, and, then everything breaks loose. But if they extend that option, then the amount of settlement that FSU has to pay goes up, and this thing gets a little bit more hairy and complicated and drags on. So I think we have to kind of realize that we may not start to see some traction on this the timeline on this until probably December, when we get a feeling of where the litigation is with FSU and Clemson, and where we get a feeling of whether or not ESPN plans to up that option. And if they, so that's where I think we kind of have to be patient here, because this could drag on for a long time, and it could get more complicated, and it can be just a complete mess. Or if ESPN wants to, they can blow everything up and deal with the repercussions. But people need to kind of calm down and realize that no one's going to have any formal talks right now or formal agreements, because all of that stuff would come out in discovery.
Yeah.
And the ACC has given a verbal warning to the conferences not to have talks and discussions with their members. So, I mean, there's nothing formal can go on, and, we have to stop and realize that. But one last point I want to point out of why FSU, other than all the great stuff that JD and Greg have said about, the getting over the stratification line and getting over that, being able to compete long term, of why they're leaving. But people need to kind of understand FSU's position is they're probably, in my estimation, at least a top 10 valued brand. They will land somewhere. Greg. And even if they have to wait a couple years, if FSU wanted to pull, even if they had to wait a couple years and they settled and they didn't have a home and they had to be independent for a couple years, which is a long shot, which is like a not likely option, I guarantee you that someone like Yormark would be more than happy to give them some games to schedule against his members, because that ups the value of his TV product too. So, so at worst case scenario, if Florida State has to wait as an independent for a couple of years, they'll likely have some games, and they'll probably get some help from someone like Yormark, because of there's a mutual benefit to them helping each other. So, I mean, FSU, when you really look at it, Greg, doesn't really have anything to lose by doing what they're doing. And, so...
the benefits far outweigh the risks.
Yeah, but not even just for that. Even if they have to wait to find out whether it's the Big Ten or SEC, they're in a position where they could probably make it work, because there are other conferences out there, like the Big 12, that would probably love to schedule games against FSU, because, like I said, what does that do to the product, their own product? It increases that value, the value of their own product. So, I mean, I think FSU is just going to. There are two boats. There's the FSU has its own boat, and the rest of the ACC is another boat. And the ACC group boat right now, with all the other members, is still trying to get out of port. But the FSU boat left a long time ago, and it's still going, and it's still carrying on, and they're going to land where they need to. And I think that's why there's kind of the resolve that they have now. So I think people need to sort of just calm down and recognize that if this thing does move fast, it's only going to move fast because ESPN has decided to change things. And if it doesn't move fast and ESPN does up that option, then whether or not there's a demise of the ACC afterwards or a reordering is going to be years of legal battles and issues. So, calm down. Don't yell at Greg. Don't yell at other people. And anyone who tells you that it's a done deal is putting they're putting fake processed American cheese on your burger.
That's exactly
Don't
what it
believe
is.
it.
It's the cheesification bleeding into other things in our lives. Absolutely correct.
But this is processed cheese, Greg. This isn't even real cheese. This is processed cheese.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll go that and take care of everyone. And, Greg, okay. I just want to say I'm going to besmirch the evil Badgers for Tony and wish your Gophers good luck this season.
Got it.
Take
We're
care.
gonna need it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Call from
Steve-O.
Steve-O, can you hold on a moment, please?
Okay.
I do appreciate it. Nathan Browns. Would would be the ultimate cloak and dagger if the Big 12 took Florida State, Clemson, and Miami. Thank you, Nathan, for your super chat, keeping the lights on for us. I appreciate it. Ryan Willie, the evil badger. The cause of lower enrollment is that millennials and Gen Z aren't popping kids out like the older generations have before them. Where it really happened between 2007 and 2029, that's when it really kicked off, and that's why we're going to see it dropping off the table after 2025. And it's not just the Big 12 presidents thinking about it, it's everybody, every president's thinking about it. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Thank you for your super chat. Sean is a member of Early Peak Cloak and Dagger for the third month. Holy smokes. Thank you, Sean, for your generosity, for being a member. You are hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger once again. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Nathan, for your generosity. I do appreciate it. Okay, Steve-O, I apologize. The floor is yours. What do you say?
Hey, just a couple things. The talk of Florida State being independent is people just looking at football. You got to have a place for your other sports. I mean, what are you going to put them in, the American or the Sun Belt? I mean, it's just short-sighted thought process there. And as far as Ryan talking about Florida State being the top 10 brand, if you take the last 10 seasons, Florida State is 82-44. 82-44. If it wasn't for last season, Florida State would not be this hot of a topic. It just wouldn't be. Have a good day, Greg.
You got it. Appreciate it, Steve-O. All right. Steve-O, not believing in so much of the brand of Florida State.
Call from
Richard Brookins.
Richard Brookins, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say that while we all love to talk about this and give our teams heck and give our conferences even more heck, none of us really know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Everything is in flux, like you've said, and FSU is wanting to leave, but the ACC is trying to hang on to them, just like Clemson. And we don't know how that's going to turn out. If Judge Cooper has his choice, it seems to appear it's going to be in Florida. But if Judge Bledsoe has his choice, it's going to be in North Carolina. But then again, I think it's going to go federal.
Yeah, and then you got Judge Gravely in Pickens County. We're going to learn a lot more about that on July 12th. And then we got the Mecklenburg County ACC Clemson on July 2nd. First time that's going to be in front of Bledsoe. And excuse me. And what's interesting about July 2nd is that Clemson is really taking this from a completely different angle than Florida State, and yet it's in front of the same judge, Bledsoe. Clemson was the first to file, right? And that's what in Bledsoe's one of his main rulings that it should be in Mecklenburg Court when it came to the ACC versus Florida State is because he believed the ACC was truthfully the first to file. Well, there's no question that Clemson was the first to file here. So I don't mean to interrupt. It's just that we don't know what's going to happen in these court cases. Go ahead, sir.
No, we don't. And you bringing up Judge Bledsoe, it's really interesting because it's going to be funny to see if he treats Clemson the same as he treated FSU. Like you mentioned, Clemson filed first.
Yes,
Clemson filed first for getting in Mecklenburg County. We all know that. I mean, I don't think there's anybody who has any doubt they filed first to prevent the lawsuit from being in Florida. But they just need to let FSU and Clemson go. The harder they hold on to, I think they're going to start to lose more and more teams saying, hey, what's going on with these guys and why don't they let them go? Well, we just need to move on. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But I just wanted to call and give my opinion. So
Yeah,
what do
no,
know?
I happen to agree with your opinion, sir. So thanks for calling. Richard, please call again.
I will. Thanks, Greg.
You got
Bye-bye.
it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I do want to say, we can disagree and give good explanations on where we think the value of Florida State brand is and everything. I'm gonna say something. I think Florida State brand, even if they were 6-6 last year, Florida State is a huge brand, a valuable brand in an emerging university. That's the truth.
Call from
Rod Nix.
Rod Nix, can you hold on for just a second, sir?
Absolutely, Greg.
I just need to finish my thought because I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. The thoughts just fly out of my head. So I just want to finish with this.
Go right ahead, my brother.
I respect the hell out of Florida State. The fan base is huge. The university is outdistancing other Big Ten universities in research and development expenditures. They've hired more faculty than Nebraska when it comes to research. I respect the hell out of Florida State. I respect the hell out of their fan base. So much I respect them that I got to tell them the truth. I don't know where Florida State's going to end up. And I know this is college football's peak around the corner. And I'm supposed to have that information for you. And I did have odds up on the board. But the latest information, and it was very strong information. It wasn't weak information. I had to tear those odds down. I peek around the corner, do not know. There's too much unknown. There's too many. The waves are crashing one way, and we got waves coming in crashing the other ways. We do not know. There's too much unknown from our perspective, what we've been told. So when I say this, I'm not disrespecting Clemson. I'm not disrespecting Florida State. I'm just giving you the honest chatter behind the curtain. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Greg. I appreciate it. A couple of quick points, and then I'm going to let the lines reopen. First and foremost, you don't have to apologize for anything. You are doing an outstanding job. Most of us in No Nation know exactly that you're telling the truth.
Appreciate it.
Point number two, let's go back to Chicago. Okay? This is me being Columbo Part 2 for you. Okay?
Yeah.
We're going to pretend now that we're dealing with the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, okay? And all of these teams, the ACC is now 18 commodities, okay? The Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC are all looking at futures, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody's assessing the value of the respective future, the respective program that they want to take a shot at. As you alluded to, until all this is clear, until the court actions are done, until a settlement is done, until someone finds a legal mechanism to make their future valuable to someone to make an offer, everything is speculation. It's all speculative trading. So you are 100% on target. Instead of, let's say we took the odds down, let's look at it more now as trading. And let's see where the futures are going to go. If Florida State is committed to Project Osceola, like they appear to be, their stock will rise. And at the appropriate time, the appropriate buyer will come in and make them an offer, and they will accept. In the meantime, it will be business as usual. You continue to make yourself look good across the board. Any of the 18 teams in the ACC or anyone in the Big 12 that's looking to make a move, make yourself look good. That's what this whole thing is about, as you alluded to.
Yeah.
The playoff is going to have to play itself out. The teams, the conferences that are looking at investments want to see who is going to be the big fish that they want to invest in. Yeah. My last point is, did you see the article from the, I can't think of the name of the paper in South Bend, but the young man did an excellent job talking about Notre Dame's future scheduling issues. And I want to just throw this question at you, and then I'll be done. If the Big Ten goes to 10 conference games and the SEC goes to 9 conference games, that increases inventory, yet again, futures for the media partners, therefore a bigger return. How does that impact Notre Dame and their ability to schedule? That may be the one thing that forces Notre Dame to come to the table. That may serve as the secondary trigger to then employ the advancement of the Southeastern strategies for the for the Big Ten. So I know I said a lot there, my friend. I'm going to clear the line, let you get back to it again. Yeah. Great job. There are those of us in Noel Nation that definitely appreciate the integrity that you're bringing to the process. So keep doing what you're doing, my brother.
God bless. I appreciate it. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so very much.
Bye-bye, Greg.
Call from
Returning from the Dead, Crab Cakes and Football.
Crab Cakes and Football. I hope you're feeling better. Can you hold on a moment, please?
Yes, sir. I can.
We just got a great. So, yeah. Look, I think the answer that that incredible call that we just had. Just the moment we hear that there is a settlement in place, the ACC is willing to deal with Florida State Clemson, in which would open up other schools to go through the same pathway. And whatever that number is, whatever that settlement is, just that is going to be impactful onto Notre Dame. Maybe not enough for Notre Dame to jump out of their football independent status. Maybe not. But it's going to be impactful because you're going to have teams, you're going to have big, valued ACC schools leaving the conference, or at least have the potential of leaving the conference way before anybody thought it was going to happen. That's going to jar Notre Dame. Of course it is. Of course it is. In fact, they're probably, even though they're expecting it, remember Jack Swarbrick said a couple springs ago, in the spring of 2022, he said that every school is going to have to get into their solar system, the SEC solar system or the Big Ten solar system. So they're sort of expecting it. So, but when it happens, it's gonna be not surprising, but it's still gonna be shock to the system. And now, does Notre Dame finally move off because they know the ACC is about to lose at least 2 or more of their biggest brand schools? And then when you talk about the 9 conference game, 10 conference game, well, first of all, the ACC crumbling, losing schools, is probably going to affect Notre Dame's current NBC contract, because we've been told it's a little bit of a sliding scale, possibly in regards to what type of home schedule that they will have during the years of this contract with NBC. So I think it's pretty assured that NBC protected themselves in this media deal, and that if the ACC crumbles, if Florida State leaves, Clemson leaves, they can't schedule Notre Dame, it's going to affect Notre Dame's immediately it's going to affect Notre Dame. And for the SEC to go to 9 conference games and the Big Ten to go to 10 conference games, that's going to affect Notre Dame. if Big Ten goes to 10 conference games, yes, that gives more inventory to their media partner, but it also cuts off a home game, at least one home game every 2 years. I don't want to spend time going down that rabbit hole too much, but with a 9 conference games, you can have 2 out of conference games. You can have 2 home out of conference games and 1 away non-conference game if you are going 5 home, 4 away in your 9 conference. 10 conference games makes it more difficult to get 7 home games on your schedule. You can do it like every other year because you're going to have to play an away game, non-conference away game once in a while. So if you're going to go to 10 conference games, you better be bringing in a whole lot more money on those media rights. So it's a bigger jump for a conference to go from 9 conference games to 10 than it is to go from 8 to 9. So I believe the SEC will go from 8 to 9. I am not sure. I am not. Depends on how large the conference grows. I'm not quite there yet on the Big Ten's future with 10 conference games. Great call. Fantastic call. Thank you. Call again. Caller, the floor is yours. Go at it, sir.
Hey, how you doing, Greg?
Doing good, Crab Cakes. How are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. Crab Cakes, can you hold on for a little bit more? I'm so far behind. So far behind. Anthony Carlson, thank you so much for your incredible generosity once again. And I respect you, Greg. Like I said, you're my go-to channel for realignment news, college football news. We all strike out from time to time, but we pick up and keep going. Q Pala. Pala? Is that a Spartan statement? I don't know what that is. Is that a Spanish statement? Thank you so much, Spartan. I appreciate it. Appreciate your incredible generosity to this channel. An important member of the PATC community. Michigan Spartans, Aiden Childs. Holy smokes. I'm going to be predicting the Big Ten's order of finish next Monday. Spartans, you better buckle up and brace for impact. Thank you, Anthony. Okay, Crab Cakes and football. Go ahead, sir.
I don't even know where to start now. Did you, by chance, do you follow the Locked On Big Ten at all?
No, I don't. Not a shot to them.
Well, I mean,
I really don't watch any of the lockdown programs. I just don't have time. They're just not in my queue.
Okay,
so
no problem. Well, the Locked On Big Ten guy, I forget his name. Normally I know his name, but I just can't think of it. He's saying that he's hearing Notre Dame chatter because of all the money that's going on. You know, now you got to pay the $30 million a year for the next 10 years, and then you got the NIL, and then you got all this other stuff. So, and he, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but he at least threw it out there. I think it was yesterday that, or it's this morning, one of the two, that there's Notre Dame chatter to go with what you were saying earlier.
Well, I'm not reporting that. I'm not reporting this Notre Dame chatter. I'm saying that Notre Dame's going to get looked. Realignment for the Big Ten. The first step runs through Notre Dame. Second step runs through North Carolina. And even if they both might say no, once again, both Notre Dame and North Carolina have said no to the Big Ten in the past. Both of them. Notre Dame multiple times, and North Carolina, when they said no before the Big Ten, were able to get Maryland and Rutgers. So, but go ahead, sir.
But that I was just letting you know about that video. The money for the TV has dried up. The last good contract was the Big Ten's and what SEC was able to get with Texas and Oklahoma. Ever since then, it's gotten extremely tight. Now throw in all the NIL, now throw in all the paying the players, and now all that money. I think the Big Ten, the SEC, and everybody has no choice but to hit the pause button. Because if the ACC, let's just pretend it fell apart today and all the money was available, the ESPN would grab Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, and Florida State and say, okay, we got the 4 we want. We're at 20. Have whatever you want, Big Ten. But ESPN's having money troubles, especially with Disney in the past, and Fox is going half shares with a couple of teams, as you know, to Washington and Oregon, because they were late ads too, by the way, which didn't help them and whatnot. But I just don't think the money is there with all this uncertainty going on and with the economy going as bad as it's going, and I'm staying out of politics on that one, and everything else. I just don't think the money's there for these conferences to really get ambitious. So now they got to look for, okay, yes, football is important. That's a 75% of the time thing we would look at. But now the enrollment and, like you said, the AU status and all that stuff and all these other things that they can bring to the table, because now, like you mentioned on earlier from that article, if the population dip that's going to happen and the less enrollees in the next couple of years, they're going to be looking to try to get these schools that they can get in there. So I'm not saying a Georgia Tech would be out, but let's just say a Georgia Tech with their math would probably be a better ad than even a great football school in some cases. Not saying it's going to happen, but because of the changing dynamics. I no longer think it can even be done on sport anymore. I mean, sports is important. Football is extremely important. Basketball, same thing. My voice is breaking up, so I'll make this fast. But I think it's gotten to the point now where they've realized money is becoming an issue, and I think they realize now maybe they get 2 for the SEC, and they might only get 1, Notre Dame, for the Big Ten when it's all said and done, if they ever join. So I think they might even have completely just said, you know what, we can't even dream that big right now with the money woes that are going on.
Yeah.
So that's my thought on that. I'm probably way off base, but I was thinking about that when I was hearing your monologue yesterday when I couldn't call in today. So, all right, man.
I hope you're feeling better, sir.
Man, that's been death warmed over. I don't know what I got, but I'm feeling better today. For the last 2 days, I couldn't talk. My wife was happy about that. So,
all right, sir.
All right, man.
Thank you.
Later.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think the live sports is still king. And the media market was tight.
Call from
Immaculate.
Mr. Hot Guy, the floor is yours.
I'll be real quick. I actually wasn't even planning on calling in, bro, but just wanted to touch upon 2 things if I could.
Yep, you got it.
First, when we're talking about the scheduling, my opinion on this, not trying to be, absolute on this, but I actually think that the 10-game schedule is more possible than you might think. Your point is good on the top end, in terms of the 9 and then having the 3, which gives you 2 home games. But a lot of times that ends up being like a lower team that they're actually paying to come. So, and also those tickets tend to sell for less.
Mm-hmm.
So the benefit there is much smaller. And on the 9-game schedule, every other year they're only getting 4 home conference games.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10-game schedule actually increases that. Now, so you get the same amount on the opposite years when it's 5 and 4. And yes, you're going down to 2 away games, but what they're probably going to get rid of are those games where they're paying. And that's where the real kind of the political problem happens, because of how many schools are depending upon that. But if we ever get to the point where they move to 10, that's probably what happens, and that's going to hurt. But just in terms of, pure unemotional math, the
the loss at the top is much smaller than the gain at the bottom, because now you're getting 5 conference home games every year. And what you're losing out on are some of those games that you're paying someone to come to you to play.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you see what I'm saying on that.
Yeah. Good point.
So
Good. In fact, you know, they've had this. Big Ten has had discussions on it, and some athletic directors, some of them have said they would like it because it's 5 home games, 5 road games. Everybody has the same amount of home game, away games every year, unlike it is now, where the schedules of course are unbalanced, but they're also unbalanced in regards to how many home, how many away. So, and we know that it's written in the BJ Flex contract. His contract is stated for a certain amount of money, bonuses, if there's a 9-game conference, 9 conference games. But if there's 10 conference games, his contract reads differently. And I believe other coaches are getting that written in too. So there is that possibility, of course, happening. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I did not know that at all. And, and
people can Google that if they want. It was a report like 2 years ago, last year.
Well, that kind of shows you. I mean, you don't usually put that in there unless you're seeing a good chance of that. The big question becomes, what about those conferences with 8, right? Because that's a different evaluation than going from 9 to 10, going from 8 to 9. You'd have to do a rundown those. I really haven't. I mostly kind of just look at the Big Ten situation. But they've been, the SEC tried to get ESPN to pay for a 9th game, and ESPN said no. So they're looking into it for. I kind of wonder if they'd be willing to do a full jump to 10 if it was combined with an expansion. But I digress on that. That's a whole other conversation. I just kind of wanted to jump into the math on that. And in terms of how much money is around for this, I know the general idea is that there isn't any more. When we look at what happened with Washington and Oregon, does that mean that there's no more money? Does that mean that they're just kind of playing it tight? I don't know. But the latest thing to happen is Fox, NBC, and TNT have all gone in now with the Big East. So I tend to think, and I always will tend to think this, is that if they think that there's money to be made, then they'll spend on it, because they're not paying these conferences until after they get their money from the cable companies and after they get their money from advertisers. Like they do payouts later on down the road. So as long as they think that there's money to be made, they're going to make a deal. It's just a matter of how much is there. So, I can't give that evaluation. I don't know if any of us could, but I do still think that there's money to be made, especially if you start, if you expand into different areas and you have different programs that you bring in. I think that there's money there. So I just wanted to point that out, that here just recently we have an example where, 3 major players think that there's money.
Yeah. Hello?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. No, you bring up a great, you're bringing up a lot of great points, Immaculate. I'm wondering, can I change the topic for a moment?
If you want, I was going to let you go so you can get another caller, but I mean, if you want.
Well, I'm wondering why you haven't yelled at me yet, why you haven't scolded me, because you must have missed my Big 12 predictions. I predicted.
But Iowa State number 1?
Iowa State Cyclones, number 3 in the conference.
Oh, you said 3. Okay. Well, I mean, hey, the better they are, the better Iowa looks after Iowa beats them. So,
I got a feeling that Saturday's gonna be a good night in Iowa City. It's gonna be a good night for the Cyclones. Iowa State Cyclones gonna beat the Hawkeyes in Iowa City, Immaculate.
Nah, I don't know. This is a top 3 defense in the country, top 5 defense, and I mean,
yeah.
I haven't really been looking at Iowa State, but are they going to blow everyone away this year? I'm not hearing much, but that doesn't mean
Big 12 Freshman of the Year quarterback Rocco Beck.
You and these freshman quarterbacks.
He was a freshman last year. He was a freshman of the year last year in the Big 12. He's not a freshman anymore, and he had an unbelievable year last year. Abu Sama, the running back, was unbelievable the last 4 or 5 games. Tight end Benjamin Brommer. The great defense. They've got a great defensive rush guy. Starts with the letter O. I can't remember his name, but whatever. Iowa State is this. They are. They will be on the cusp of making the college football playoffs this year. What do you say about that? Am I on something, or am I on something?
I don't think you want to ask me that. But then again, I'm the guy that's saying there's a good chance that Iowa's going to make it into the playoffs. So
yeah, well, there you go.
You say the same thing. I mean, do they have a shot? I would love to see it. I mean, they're going to lose to Iowa regardless, right? But beyond that, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them do well. I once the Iowa State game is over, I cheer them on. It's just they just have to get over that loss in Iowa City.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I got on that. I just wanted to kind of drop that math on you, and just because I know people think like the 10 move is not a good move, and when you get into the details of it, I actually think the gain is better than the loss.
Got it. All right. Appreciate it, sir. Great call by Immaculate. He makes some great points on that, no question about it. And now I have screwed up my sound bar. Sam8911SX is making some good points. Look, Florida, the state is huge. Absolutely. There's a lot of growth there. Absolutely. So, now the demographics aren't quite like North Carolina. Florida does have an SEC team.
Call from
JD.
JD, the floor is yours. Mr. Seminole, what is going on? What have you heard? What is the steam out there in Tallahassee?
How you doing, Greg?
Doing good.
Little fair warning. I'm driving in an area that for some reason the cell service is a little sketchy. So if I drop off, if I get permission, I call back. But if it don't get interrupted, then fantastic.
You can call back anytime you want. We'll just blame it on ESPN. Go ahead, sir.
There you go. They're out to get us all. I don't know who's bashing you.
It ain't you. But I got people. You know how it is. I got people sending me stuff. I don't even care. I don't care if people are bashing me, like saying you're wrong, Greg. That I want that. I need that. Or we don't have a college football show. I mean, we don't have a college football show if we're not disagreeing. But
I'm going to
garbage. He's throwing garbage out there. These are people in the PATC community who've been on this, and I'm like, holy smokes, we're definitely not putting out garbage. It may be incorrect in your guys' thoughts, but it ain't garbage. We are very meticulous about how we do things. We're giving you a straight shoot, and if we're wrong, we're gonna be the first ones to take the L. Go ahead, JD.
No, I'm just gonna say the only one I've ever seen trash is your buddy Genetics, and I say that sarcastically, obviously. And he gets on War Chant. He and I have had some back and forth. He blocked me a long time ago on Twitter. But anyway.
Yeah, I'll save my comments on him for him later.
Now on this topic, when it concerns the realignment news, now that has popped up in the on the thread, and I disagree with some aspects of it. There are some aspects that I absolutely disagree with. Now, you're either going to be right or I'm going to be right. If I'm wrong, I'll call you next week or the week after once we get some clarity, and I'll just say you were correct. It's not anything that maybe that you would think, but let me kind of start into this.
Mm-hmm.
The messaging that you're getting now, okay? What's the motivation? In other words, either everything, go ahead. I was just going to say either everything that they're telling you is 100% true or it's not. Okay, go ahead and speak.
One is the Big Ten and the SEC would rather now they don't control this though, but if they had their choice, they would rather kick this thing down in next June, not now. That's one motivation of what I'm being told of. Like, they would rather say, hold on a second, because they want to evaluate everything, the settlement, the salary cap, their TV schedule. It's just everything. So many changes going on. They rather kick. That's one motivation. The other message is, as great as Florida State is and Clemson and other universities in the ACC, everyone's going to still check back with Notre Dame and North Carolina and make sure that give them the time to unravel out of their quagmire and all that stuff that we've talked about. So, Clemson and Florida State are still doing themselves a favor, a service in doing all they can to be the ones that are first available for serious, meaningful discussions. So they're doing everything right. It's just that the belief now that the talk is, and it's decisive talk, like the Big Ten is not going to. There's going to be some evaluation time discussions, even when Florida State and Clemson make themselves available. That is the motivation for me ripping up the scoreboard at the on any given Saturday sports book, and that is why I've had this talk on my live show for the last 3 or 4 live shows. There is no chalk. No, there is no deal done. Florida State is a great brand, great value, but I cannot predict where they're going. They could go to the SEC. They could go to the Big Ten. I do not know. If I had an inkling now, I would say it, but because of what we've been told, there's just too much unknown.
Okay, devil's advocate here again.
Yep.
What if some of the information is wrong?
Well, then the information is wrong.
What would be the motivation for the information to be wrong? See,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. No.
Okay.
I do not. Let me say this. I am 100% convinced that the information that I was given does not have to do with cloak and dagger. In other words, it's not motivated by Notre Dame, by North Carolina, by any political or any economic motivation behind it. I believe what we've been told more than once in the last 7 days is pure information coming from a deep, deep place that says, hold on, you move too fast. You got to make this moment last. Just kick it down the realignment road. We don't know what's going to happen. There's too much unknown. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. when you first started reporting this a few days ago, I reached out to a couple people online and then also offline. They say nothing has changed. One person that I've referenced a couple of times, yes, he's a big FSU alum, and he does get involved in the chats and so on, but he doesn't get his information from FSU sources. He gets his from inside Big Ten. He has contacts inside Big Ten administrations. I've asked him, has there been any change as far as the Big Ten's interest or whatever else? And the answer was nope, nothing's changed. So I take that, and then I also take into consideration the timing. FSU is rumored to be announcing soon, with or without a settlement. I think they're trying to force a settlement. I think that they're actively trying to do that. They might be close to a settlement. I don't know. Are they bluffing? I don't think they are. They may be. We will find out. But now all of a sudden you see people, some of the Twitter rumor sites get started. Now you see Josh Pate doing the thing that he's doing. And then coincidentally, the Dennis Dodd article comes out last week. Now, I will tell you the $41 million valuation is complete garbage, because I'm getting a little off topic on that, because just the carriage fees that the Big Ten would gain by coming into Florida would far surpass $41 million. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Plus, not even considering the ad fees. And then to Steve-O can have his opinions and so on. But FSU at the beginning of the 2022 season, when they were still coming off losing records, was still valued in the top 12 brands. And it's only magnified just in the last 2 years. And that's having gone through probably the worst 5-year period in the last 40 years. They've righted that ship now. So anyway, getting back on the topic, I find it curious that just coincidentally, within a couple of weeks of FSU potentially announcing, we'll find out. Now, I do not believe it's going to be tomorrow. Anybody who suggested that they're going to announce, they kind of hint around that it would be the earliest would be next week, and then maybe even all the way into July. We'll see if it actually happens, okay?
Announcing that they're doing what?
Leave it. Filing a notice. Now, that's from what I can gather, and everybody else believes as well. Could they announce a destination? Of course not. I mean, they can't announce a destination. If they did file a notice next week, can they announce a destination? No. Do I believe there's a little more cloak and dagger going on behind the scenes than what some people might think? Yes. Do I think there's a deal on a piece of paper that it's just waiting for a signature? And I know that's really not how it works, but I don't know about all that. I mean, could they end up in the SEC? Possibly. Could there be some other factors in play? Possibly. Either I'm right or I'm wrong. I'm not, again, I've said this to you before. I'm never worried about being right. I want to be correct.
Yeah.
I want to have the correct information. But I find it curious that within 2 weeks of a potential announcement, next thing you know, some of this filters into the system. Okay, what is it? Is it that Notre Dame doesn't want the ACC to break apart, and neither does the ACC, so they're trying to throw things into the system to convince FSU to wait? Maybe others are trying to convince FSU to wait. There's a lot of people that believe the composition clause is a real factor in all this. Again, I don't know. I just read the same things everybody else does. And you start taking all this other stuff into consideration. I don't doubt you and your sources. But I know there's been some propaganda thrown in there with that $41 million valuation that people in the system believe, because that is absolute garbage. And I don't mean that to be all offended. I just know there's people purposely putting it out there for not so, for nefarious purposes. They're trying to influence some opinions is what they're trying to do. And so it could be that 85% of the information you have is correct. But because I know some of it's not, now I got my, I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to the timing. I'm paying attention to these other aspects. What is the motivation? And let's just say FSU is about to announce, okay? I remember when you were talking about Jim Phillips was reminding the SEC and the Big Ten, hey, no first-party talks with our brands, okay? Well, when it gets closer to the time, potentially the SEC and the Big Ten would want to appear to be distancing themselves from any potential ACC targets because you don't want to get sued, okay? I'm not saying all this is happening. I'm saying is there's been a lot of misdirection before. Remember last year or what was it, back in I think 2022 when I think 1 week everybody said, oh, Texas, Oklahoma, they won't be joining the SEC till at least 2026, if not 2027. One of our insiders was saying, no, it'll be done next week. I think it was Regal Knoll. He actually did a play-by-play. He must have been at the game where the Big 12 commissioner left at halftime to go and to get on a conference call. He's like, it should get announced next week. It did. There's a lot of things that go on, so there's a lot of cloak and dagger in all this. So you may end up being 100% correct, or you may end up being 80% correct. I don't know. Well, go ahead.
Where does Dennis Dodd say that he believes Florida State's media rights are only worth $41 million?
I read something where he was saying, I thought I listened to part of the interview, and it was saying,
did he say that in an interview?
Well, when I say $41 million, they're only worth what the ACC pays them. Oh. They're only worth what they're already getting, and that's the $41 million.
If somebody has that interview, I know there was an article June 7th. I'm looking at it right now, but he's saying that's how much they get for the ACC. If somebody has because you're not the first person who has said this to me, and I don't know where I don't know when I didn't hear Dennis Dodd say that. So
and so if FSU was to only be valued to be getting a half share from the Big Ten, then that would be about what their ACC, because that's one thing he was talking about is they're not valued any more than that. So if they went to the Big Ten, they'd only probably get a half share for about 10 years. Once I heard all of that, man, I had to turn it off. Is because it's not
okay.
If my school's not worth it, it's okay. But when you start throwing out things that I know it's just not true, then it's like okay,
okay.
I'm not gonna go.
I'm not going to. I know your fears don't need to be washed away, but for anybody else listening out there, I guarantee you that whatever I have reported here saying that there is no chalk, there is no done deal, we don't know where Florida State's going because the Big Ten, the SEC it just isn't to that point, has nothing to do with what Dennis Dodd said, what he's reported. We're not part of some grand cloak and dagger scheme. The information I receive did not come from Dennis Dodd or anybody he's connected to. And we came out with that information May 23rd, then May 28th. I see an article here, June 7th. I don't know when he got the interview. I will say this. It is my very, very, very strong held perception that the reporters out there in general chatter behind the curtain, and this is why I'm reporting it. One of the reasons why I'm reporting. There is a consensus that the realignment is so unknowable right now. Like, they don't know where when they say we don't know where Florida State's going to go, I honestly believe they're giving you the truth. Like, they don't know what's about to happen. There's a lot of unknowns. It's just too unknowable. The Big Ten and the SEC would rather wait until next year, and then maybe there'll be some leaks, some information. But I think everybody kind of doesn't know, and that's why I'm reporting what I'm saying. But I don't think there is. Okay, Dennis Dodd stated $41 million in an interview with 365 Sports 8 days ago.
I believe that was it. Yeah, he
Okay,
went on there.
I'm gonna listen to that. I will listen to that. I had not heard that. I did. Someone, I think Nathan Brown said that to me. I was on his show for a few moments there last night, and they said that to me. But I don't know.
And don't get the impression that I feel very comfortable that they know exactly what their confidence level has not changed. So whatever's going on, those at FSU or inside or whatever, they're fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
There's not an angst.
Now, what is Regal Knowles saying, by the way? Is he saying there's going to be an announcement next week that Florida State's going to file a notice of withdrawal? Is that what he's reporting? What exactly is he saying?
That it is believed that before June 30th, you're going to hear a major announcement. Well, what other major announcement is there? And it's just assumed. Now, again, if it doesn't happen, there's some again. But I guy's been right so much. I give him a lot of credibility. You know what I mean? I really do.
And I will be clear, just so everybody knows what page we're on here at Peek Around the Corner. I believe Florida State is not going to file a notice of withdrawal before August 15th. And if I'm wrong, I'll take the L. But I don't want anybody to get any,
Sure.
I'm going to have it just clearly put out there so everybody knows where we stand here. All right. I do appreciate it, sir.
Yes, sir. I lean that it's going to be this summer. I don't know if it'll be this month, but I lean that it'll be this summer. There's just too much going on. But, yeah, no, there's no angst to chew. They're just, I have a lot of – it's like everything that you're suggesting is 100% accurate, and if it turns out to be, so be it. I also have alternative theories, and to me they're very plausible.
Yep.
So, all right. Thanks, sir.
All right. I do appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Great call, JD. Mr. Seminole. I love when JD calls. First of all, he's a friend. He does a great job. He gives me the window of what is going on in Florida State, Tallahassee, the Florida State insiders and all that stuff. He does a great job. Thank you, JD, for giving us a call. I did get behind here. Let me get caught up. My apologies to Anthony Carlson. I actually mistyped. I meant to say Quapala, which is Klingon for success. Thank you so much, Anthony. I do appreciate you becoming a member for the 4th month. Holy smokes. An old timer, early P Cloak and Dagger member, Anthony Carlson. Thank you. You are hereby knighted officially Cloak and Dagger once again. Mr. Hurricane, Rock and Rant. My brain hurts from bad takes about Greg saying what he has always said about Notre Dame and UNC order and for the media market for sports to be tight as NBA is about to get 3 times. Couple things. Rock and Rant, thank you for so much for becoming a member, early peak member, 5 months. 5 months for Mr. Hurricane. Thank you so much for your generosity, for your friendship, for your incredible contributions to our show. Thank you so very much. You are hereby knighted cloak and dagger once again. But I understand what Rock and Rant is saying. I've always said here at Peek Around the Corner that Notre Dame and North Carolina were the largest dominoes, that they were going to give a look, that a realignment was still going to run through them in the next realignment wave. But I did muddy the waters. I did make a mistake. I've toured and I've ripped down the chalk, the odds, because I have forgotten the rule that it is going to go through Notre Dame and North Carolina. In that Florida State and Clemson, if somebody else follows them, like Miami, like Rock and Rant own Miami, if it will help them to some degree to become the first available to have meaningful conversations and all of that, it is still going to be a benefit in some degree to Florida State and Clemson. But I made the mistake of putting up the odds when I should not have. I've ripped them down. There is no chalk far as when it comes to PATC. Maybe there will be in a couple months. Maybe there will be in 10 months from now. I do not know. We're going to go where the story goes. But the story is, pull back, rip it down. There is no chalk. So I've always said Notre Dame and North Carolina, top dominoes fall first, regardless. But I kind of forgot my own rule, and I muddied the waters. So we cleared that up, Rock and Rant. Number 2, the media market was tight. And it still is kind of tight, except, NBA, we talk about demographics, the youth of America watching NBA. That demographics is willing to spend money on the national advertisers that advertise on NBA and all that stuff. So the media market was not tight for the NBA. They had a bidding war on the NBA, which Adam Silver absolutely loved. In some cases, the media market's tight. In some cases, it's not. And the media market, in the places that the media market is tight now, and it's not going to be tight forever. Live sports is still king, and it's going to be king probably for a very long time. So you're absolutely correct, Rock and Rant. We've been on the air for 2 hours. The NBA Finals did get terrible ratings. And it hasn't been getting great ratings. Wait till Anthony Edwards gets into the finals next year, Timberwolves. But you got to trade Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know for who. I don't know where. I don't think the Knicks can get us something that can help us. It has to be a 3-team deal. So Knicks, if you're listening, you can have Karl Anthony Towns, but a third team's got to give the Timberwolves something back. A front court player who can create his own shot so Anthony Edwards doesn't have to do everything. Anyways, thank you, Tony. Thank you for the comments. We're going to shut it down. We've been on the air for over 2 hours. It was just going to be a simple show, and it was. The Enrollment Apocalypse. The Enrollment Apocalypse is also in the front seat, driving the realignment bus with college football. That's just the way it is. That is the truth. So take it however you want it. We're going to be covering this story and everything else in college football tomorrow, June 20th, is the board of trustees meeting in Florida State University. We're going to be covering that if anything of importance happens. We'll be coming on live if anything of importance happens in that meeting tomorrow. So keep your head on a swivel. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. Have your notifications turned on. It's important. We can come on live at any time. We go where the story goes. This has been College Footballs. Peek around the corner with your host, Greg Flugar. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.